Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, this is the official press conference at the conclusion of the 2026 Forum Women Leaders Meeting. So we're here this afternoon. We have the chair of the meeting, Honorable John Manene Yoru, Minister for Women, Youth, Children and Family Affairs for the Solomon Islands. We also have the Honorable Minister for Justice, Honorable Jennifer Omegerio for Palau, and we also have the Secretary General, His Excellency Baron Ivale Siwanga. So I appreciate your time. We would like to also acknowledge all the media who are out there who had to. We apologize for the delay, and we also make special acknowledgement of Pasifika TV, which is live streaming this particular event right now around the region. So without further ado, I will now invite the chair to make his opening statement.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Orketa. Thank you for coming to this press conference at the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat. This is the 5th Pacific Islands Forum Women Leaders Meeting, focused on moving from policy to action. The meeting continues to provide regional leadership on the issues that matter most to Pacific peoples, including gender equality, social inclusion, economic resilience, climate action, health and well-being, disability inclusion, and children and youth engagement. The Pacific is strongest when we act together, and the 5th Women Leaders Meeting has focused on practical issues. In the preliminary, we discussed many issues of importance for the region to ensure the gender equality and social inclusion remains central focus. A key theme on the current economic and security pressures facing Pacific communities, including the effects of global instability. There was strong recognition that these shocks disproportionately affect women, children, youth, persons with disabilities, and vulnerable communities, especially smaller island states. I would like now to pass to my fellow minister from Palau to add some more reflections.
Thank you, Chair. It was a full 3 days agenda. The meeting emphasized the need for inclusive, people-centered regional responses that strengthen livelihoods, resilience, and community security. Ministers discussed the importance of a strong and effective regional gender equality architecture across the Blue Pacific, focusing on peace and security, an area I'm familiar with and dear to my heart. We as ministers discussed ways to strengthen gender equality and social inclusion across regional peace and security priorities, particularly emerging challenges such as transnational organized crime, illicit drugs, and human trafficking. Leaders stressed that inclusive approaches lead to stronger and more sustainable security outcomes. This reflects outcomes from the recent First Ministerial Police Commissioners and Chiefs Transnational Crime Summit held in Nandi in the past recent weeks, where we agreed on the implementation of an all-government, whole-of-society approach in terms of tackling transnational crime. Another very important issue we discussed is gender-based violence, which remains one of the Pacific's most urgent priorities and security issue. We focused our attention on strengthening commitment to stronger prevention and response efforts grounded in Pacific values, community leadership, and collective action across governments, civil society, faith leaders, families, and men and boys as partners and allies. I would like now to pass on to the Secretary General to reflect some of the other key issues discussed. SG.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Today, the ministers discussed the importance of investing in health for the well-being of our people, communities and national development. Importantly, they discussed at length disability inclusion and early childhood development, noting that addressing these are central to the future of our blue Pacific continent. Climate change remains the single greatest security threat to the region. And with COP31, the meeting discussed the importance of women, girls, and all Pacific peoples must help shape climate action with a strong focus on elevating Pacific priorities, ensuring diverse voices are reflected in regional and global discussions, and recognizing that inclusive participation strengthens both climate resilience and policy effectiveness.
Discussions reinforced the importance of keeping people-centered development at the heart of the regional agenda. Forum leaders endorsed gender equality and social inclusion, as well as early childhood development as standing agenda items under the people-centered development on their annual agenda. They remain committed to practical actions that strengthens resilience, promote equality, and improve well-being across the Pacific. Discussions at this meeting reinforce these commitments. One message was clear: inclusive leadership and collaborative action across generations, sectors, and communities deliver strong outcomes for the Pacific peoples, and our commitment is to ensure every voice, especially women, girls, children, and youth, and persons with disabilities, helps shape a more resilient, safe, and prosperous Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate those insights. Also, a bit of appreciation to the Minister as well. From Palau and Secretary General, we shall now open the floor for questions. We are doing this press conference in both hybrid and in person. We have a couple of reporters over here. If you can just call your name and the organization you represent, and fire off with your questions. So the floor is now open for questions.
Good evening, I'm Lucy, and I'm a journalist with Mai TV here in Fiji. To the Chair, in your opening remarks you noted that the global conflicts and economic shocks are placing the greatest survival burdens on women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Minister, as Chair, what specific regional strategy was mapped out to shield rural and outer island women from the skyrocketing costs of food, transport, and health caused by the global energy crisis?
Thank you for the question. It calls and reminds national governments of their policy, and policy centered. It has to be on the women, youth, children, and the disability, and that is the nation. It needs a proactive collaboration, and I am very grateful for this Women Leaders meeting organized by our Pacific Island Forum. It gives the avenue to further discuss these issues of interest. The call for action is valid and timely. we need to receive the outcomes, and that will be possible if we further pursue strengthening our solidarity. We, Pacific region, have to be united, and we together address these issues so that we can be stronger and have that united voice to be recognized and respected. Thank you.
Just my second question. Madam Minister, you talked about the meeting also touching on the rise of transnational crime. Here in Fiji, it's almost impossible. Our local authorities are working hand in hand with the Australian forces also. Would you be able to elaborate on what are some of the practical avenues and tasks that the forum will commit to, or the meeting will commit to help curb this? Because at the end of this, like was mentioned earlier, the people get affected most are people, the communities, the grassroots people.
Well, thank you, Lucy. The transnational crime is evident not just in Fiji, but in Palau and across all Pacific nations, is fast emerging. That's the next threat next to climate change, and perhaps almost exceeding in its damage. But I think there's an overall agreement and understanding that we cannot tackle transnational crime in silos as different as different island nations, and we need to look at it from a regional response angle, and looking at the different components that allow us to be able to work together as a region rather than as independent island nations. Sometimes an issue just is bigger than us, and we need to come together as a region, and that's the same. Those are the same principles, and that was the same level of discussions that took place at the reference Transnational Crime Summit in Nadi a couple of weeks ago. Looking at regional response, leveraging shared resources, sharing intel, and just building each other's capacity. And a big component of our effectiveness and in the implementation of a regional response is partnerships. So we have partnerships with and help us build not just our skill set in terms of the skills of our police officers to be able to combat this new crime portfolio, which was not a traditional part of the crime portfolio for the Pacific, but to build our institutional capacity. That's talking about, do we have software in place? Do we have networks in place that aid and support our investigative works in terms of transnational crimes? Because you're talking drugs, you're talking human trafficking, you're talking money laundering, you're talking online scams and gambling. So it's critical that we leverage our partnerships, that we work together as a region, that we share assets, we share intel, and we develop a collective, or we put down a collective protective net around the Pacific as a region that secures and controls our borders. So as mentioned today, the Pacific was it started out as a transit hub from Southeast Asia and the Americas, transporting illicit drugs through the Pacific to bigger and more lucrative markets such as Australia and New Zealand. It has evolved now to be the Pacific. We are a market destination now. So we need to come together as a region and combat this new emerging challenge. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Minister, for the insights. There is a question that has come through online, so if I can invite Sadam Hussain from the ANU Development Policy blog, if you can go ahead with your question, please.
able to. Are you able to hear me? Because I'm not able to hear myself.
Yes, we can hear you, Sadhana.
Oh, excellent. I'm told I'm always negative, so I'll start with the celebration. I've just posted online some statistics which says that Vanuatu actually leads the way in the region in terms of getting down its gender-based violence in country. And this is statistics for Asia Pacific. So it's something worth celebrating for the region. My question is to the SG. The last SG was asked this question: when are we going to start celebrating our achievements in terms of gender parity, in terms of the terrible statistics we have on women's participation, on gender-based violence, etc. And he said, this is Mr. Puna, he said, we have to be patient in this region. Now my question is, how long do women of the region have to be patient before they get parity in anything? This is Vanuatu obviously working very hard. It put itself out there, did this survey to say whether it's actually achieving anything or not in terms of its work on gender-based violence. 1 year to the next, you have meetings every year. How do we know if leaders are actually accountable in any way to the region, to the people of the region in terms of the work you do? What has PIF's achievement been from the last meeting to this meeting?
Thank you very much for that question. Very important one to consider seriously. And during this 3-day meeting, I think the women minister leaders did very well in combining their stories and their experiences in sharing some of the challenges they continue to experience at home. Women in violence, gender violence, and all these are part of their concerns year in, year out, and we're hearing it again at this meeting. They're looking for more action. They're asking action, more action, rather than it's just continued talanoa. So they're putting all their efforts together. As I said, they were sharing stories, individual stories from their own experiences, and see how well we can combine our efforts to combating this. And let me tell you this, I think some of them have pointed out some very important points for collaboration, and that is the whole government, whole society approach in addressing these issues. We cannot just depend on policing. I heard that clearly. We can't just. They presented their concerns right from the beginning to, they call it what, primary, then secondary address, and then they address it tertiary when after the fact. But no, I think the women leaders meeting every year will continue to discuss these things, and stronger, as the chairman put it earlier in his introduction. I think I understand what you're saying, that it's we have to be patient. Yes, the answer to your question previously was to be patient, because it's not an easy task, and these sorts of meetings are regional. We put our heads together for a regional approach. How do we all work with each other to try and at least alleviate, exterminate all these problems that we face in our communities? Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. Do we have any more questions from the media?
Good evening. My name is Kaneta Nematau. I'm a journalist from the Fijisan. My question is to the Chair and also to the Secretary General. Mr. Wanga, you mentioned about climate change and also the upcoming COP31. This is in regards to especially the youth. So the Pacific Youth Council, they held their town series earlier this month, like bringing together young people from across the Pacific region. They're trying to push for stronger climate accountability and to be more involved, especially with their leaders when it comes to decisions on the table. I think they'll also be producing a Pacific Youth Statement, and they'll take it to pre-COP31 and also for the upcoming Pacific Islands Foreign Ministers meeting. My question is how will the Pacific Islands Forum ensure that the Pacific youth voices are heard on the global stage, especially COP31 is coming, because the youth said they want to be heard, not shut down. And was this also addressed in the meeting? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. As you know, youth voices are absolutely a priority for our leaders, our region, and for the Pacific Islands Forum. We promote that. We pursue to making sure that you're heard and your priorities are laid out clearly for leaders to look at. And remember, some spaces we can show ourselves at, and others, like leaders meeting, it's a space reserved for them. But as you know, all leaders will hear and listen to all the sectors that are putting forth ideas and points to be.
Go ahead, Sadhana.
Talks about not enough funds for advocacy, not enough funds for vaccines. Yet it's holding its regional meeting at the Sheraton Fiji, where you pay some $2,000 a night for these meetings. Now, to me, that's not effective use of donor dollars. And HIV/AIDS affects women too. What is PAIR's and its meeting's position on using the donor dollar as effectively as you can and not wasting these precious donor dollars on this kind of frivolous holiday at Tenerife?
Thank you very much for that question. That's a bit awkward for me to answer, but no, it's not a holiday. Any meeting is not any holiday for me. The donors are the ones that specify how they want their money spent, and the forum will just follow. We always have a fallback and a default venue. As you know, we provide this for free, and this is where we're having the meeting right now. And sometimes it depends on the participation. If it's less donors, it's up to the donors how they want their money used. But we don't get money directly, as you're alluding to, and we have our own budget that we're very, very stringent on. I can tell you that, and we make sure that dollar that we spend goes the furthest to benefiting our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. I think we shall get one more question.
My final question is for Madam Minister. From a justice sector perspective, what legal or institutional barriers were identified during this meeting as the biggest blockade or blockades preventing victims of abuse from finding a safety net in the Pacific?
Thank you, Lucy. I think there is no just one. So a series of things were discussed, and gender-based violence and any type of violence, particularly when it's partner-related or domestic in nature, there's a number of issues, and there's always a number of factors that lead up to that. So, and you can't really just address it as a standalone situation. You gotta talk about the economic components of that environment for which they're in. You got to talk about the educational level. You got to talk about economic opportunities, what's going on around the house in terms of income, livelihoods, what's impacting. Does climate change have a factor into ultimately influencing the level of violence within those homes? So those kind of issues were discussed during this very important meetings. And there's that understanding that that's why we all have to come together, people from different areas of expertise and from different walks of life and experiences, because there is no one set of triggers that result in those kind of situations. So you've got to address all the different sort of thematic areas that include the ultimate and intimate interaction within a home that results in domestic violence. And it can be far-reaching. You can be talking about national type issues right down to, small, what's going on within the home kind of situation. So that's why it's important to have these meetings and to be and to have them in concurrence, so you can really measure if there are impacts, if there are progresses, however small they are. So I don't see these meetings as being frivolous, or I see them as opportunities to be able to come and say, and that question that was asked, was there a difference that was made? Is there something that we can measure? But every little step is success, however small that is. And we continue to grapple with GBV has been around for a long time, and now we have these new emerging challenges in relation to transnational crimes, that the whole epidemic of HIV now in Fiji, triggered by the use and sharing of syringes, so other types of crisis creating other crises, a drug crisis turning into a health crisis. So there is no just one thing. That's why it's important that we all come together and talk about all the different things and see how we can put all those together into one cohesive, unified response. I hope that answers your question somewhat. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That brings us to the conclusion of the press conference. Word of appreciation to all those media who also joined us online. Just before we conclude the program, we have a gift presentation. I understand.